Uncovered. 3 sinister train horror stories that will haunt your nightmares forever. Jenna's breath came out in quick hitches as she stood alone at the icy Maplewood train platform. The night had a way of making everything feel more dangerous, and tonight was no different. After losing her job, she delved into late-night shifts at the diner, but this felt different. The distant whistle of the train sliced through the stillness, striking a chord of dread within her. Panic gripped her stomach like a tightening vice. She quickly glanced around, half expecting someone, or something, to emerge from the shadows. Boarding the train felt like stepping into a realm of uncertainty. The ominous glow of the fluorescent lights cast eerie shadows across the faces of the other passengers. But it was him, the man with the unsettling smile, who made her blood run cold. He seemed too aware of her, his gaze boring into her like he could read her worries. As the train lurched forward, her heart raced. She felt it, the weight of a terrible secret lurking in the corners of this metal beast. Whispers began to flutter through the air, fragments of hushed urban legends threading through the group. "Did you hear about the Maplewood disappearances? They say those who vanished came back as, well, not quite themselves," a woman murmured nervously. Every spine in the carriage tingled in unison, freezing the air with a heavy sense of paranoia. Beneath her skin, a chilling thought seized her. Was that man somehow linked to it all? The memory of her mother's stern warnings pulsed in her mind. Beware of shadows, they harbor secrets. Before she could collect her racing thoughts, the train jolted violently, lights flickering. Gasps filled the air, and for a fleeting moment, fear pulsed like a heartbeat among the passengers. When darkness enveloped them, the realization hit her like a blunt force. He was telling stories, dark, malicious tales that were wrapped up in the names of those gone missing. Her heart sank. This man spoke with the eerie confidence of someone who knew too much, and each word seemed to suck the air out of her lungs. "Next stop, nowhere," he whispered with a grin that sent shivers down her spine. Jenna's pulse quickened. She could feel the heavy atmosphere shift around her, a suffocating blanket of despair washing over the cabin. She had to protect Lily. Her daughter's safety was priority number 1. But what if they never got off? What if they were trapped here forever? Suddenly, an unsettling scream pierced through the tension. One passenger had vanished into thin air, leaving behind an empty seat and a ghostly silence. Whispers turned frantic, a collective panic erupting like flames from an ignited fusible link. As fear spread faster than light, Jenna gripped Lily's arm, her fingers trembling. The unshakable feeling of eyes watching her intensified, enveloping her in sheer dread. There was no way she could trust the whispers anymore. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." With every breath, Jenna sensed something darker lurking, weaving through the shadows of the train. Panic surged inside her. The man leaned closer, whispering phrases that made her skin crawl, questions only someone involved could ask. Their eyes locked, and she could see the thrill of horror dance behind his grin. "Don't be scared, Jenna. You'll see her soon." The lights flickered back on, revealing the haunted expressions around her and the shivering frame of her daughter. It was all too real. The next stop. Would it be salvation, or simply another trap? A tightening knot of despair clutched at her as she realized nobody was resolved to face what lay ahead. An electric tension filled the air. Would they disappear next? The mere thought shocked her to her core, sending her into a spiral of fear. The train hurtled through the night, bearing them into an uncertain fate, while each rattling carriage held dark promises waiting to be fulfilled. Jenna's heart pounded like a relentless drum as the train rushed through the darkness, swallowing everything outside in its sinister maw. The man's grin widened, and each twitch of his lips seemed to mock her panic. How could he be so calm when chaos erupted around them? Where did she go? Jenna's voice was shaky, barely breaking through the frantic murmurs of the remaining passengers. "Didn't you listen? The train knows," he said with a chilling ease. "It always knows." His words slithered into her mind, curling around her sanity. It felt like a threat, yet she was too terrified to scream. Lily squeezed her hand tighter, her small fingers trembling. Jenna glanced at her daughter. A chill ran through her. Lily's wide eyes reflected a fear that made Jenna's heart ache. She leaned down, whispering, "Stay close, honey. We'll get through this, I promise." But even as the words left her lips, dread clawed at her gut. The man still loomed, a dark spectre within their shared fear. The fluorescent lights flickered again, casting long shadows that danced across broken expressions. Suddenly, another scream slashed through the air, more guttural this time. A man in the corner had crumpled to the floor, clutching his chest. Jenna's breath caught in her throat, her mother's warnings echoing in her mind. They were alone among strangers, trapped with something unseen. Panic erupted. People stood, shoving toward exits that didn't exist. "Get out! Let me out!" someone cried. But the train showed no sign of stopping. Was there escape, or just the abyss? As the chaos enveloped them, a figure resembling the man with the smile vanished into the crowd, dispersing like smoke. "Enough!" Jenna's voice rang out. It felt like a plea for sanity, but the other passengers barely acknowledged her, lost in their own worlds of terror. She gripped Lily's arm, anchoring herself to her daughter. "We can't panic. We have to think." But each frantic whisper of the crowd dimmed the defiance in her heart. Lights flickered again, this time plunging the carriage into an inky darkness. The sudden chill cut through her skin like ice. Jenna's breath was shallow, the silence deafening. Then, as if mocking their plight, the lights buzzed back on, revealing 2 more empty seats. Another pair vanished into thin air. The remaining passengers fell still, eyes darting across the cabin, searching for the next sign of disappearance. Jenna's heart raced as she felt a shift, a movement in the shadows at the far end of the carriage. Fear wrapped around her chest, squeezing harder than before. The tension was thick, almost palpable, and a guttural instinct whispered that danger lurked close, ready to strike. A low chuckle echoed through the cabin, the sound hanging in the air like thick smoke. It was him. "Don't worry, you'll all be found. Eventually." His eyes gleamed with sick amusement. Goosebumps erupted on her skin. He spoke like he belonged to some twisted realm, where the lost simply became part of the train's hunger. "No, we'll get off this train." Jenna deflected with a shaky glare as dread clawed at her resolve. But as the fear simmered, another voice from a shadowy corner declared, "We don't have much time." The lights began to flicker again, and the air pulsed with a ghastly energy. Jenna's mind raced. How much longer could they last? What would the next stop bring? Would it be salvation or doom? "Hold on to your loved ones," the whispers escalated, a haunting warning rising above the cold winds rushing past the train windows. With a sudden jolt, the train decelerated, the gears grinding painfully, screeching as if the very metal protested against the stop. Fear gripped the passengers once more as the train lurched to a halt. The doors swung open with an eerie creak, a yawning abyss of shadows awaiting them. Lily turned to Jenna, her voice barely a whisper. "Mum, what will happen if we get off?" Jenna's breath caught in her throat. "I don't know," she admitted, terror lacing every syllable. As the darkness beckoned, a nauseating thought washed over her. What if the next stop wasn't a place but a fate? Ready or not? Here we go. The man with the unsettling smile echoed as they edged closer to the doors. What awaited them beyond the threshold? An expanse of solace or unspeakable horrors? As Jenna held Lily tight, a quiet scream echoed her thoughts. She was determined to find out, but part of her wondered if the truth held the same twisted smile. The doors creaked open, revealing a darkness that felt alive, breathing, eager to swallow them whole. Jenna hesitated, her instincts screaming at her to retreat, yet fear for Lily urged her forward. The air was thick with humidity, the kind that clung to the skin, making it hard to breathe. She clutched her daughter's hand tighter, feeling their connection pulse like a tether amidst the encroaching void. "Let's go," she whispered, her voice wavering, battling the choking dread surrounding them. The first steps felt like plunging into icy water. Shadows swirled around them, tightening like a vice. The station was desolate, illuminated only by flickering overhead lights that cast long, jagged lines on the cracked floor. As they stepped outside, the strange stillness enveloped them, blanketing the night with an uncomfortable heaviness. Through the gloom, Jenna caught glimpses of other figures. Some stood still, others shuffled aimlessly, lost souls outside the bounds of reality. The man's voice echoed back through the doors, taunting them. "You'll find the truth here, if you dare." There was no turning back now. Jenna nudged Lily forward, scanning the lackluster scene. "We need to keep moving," she said, half-heartedly trying to instill courage in both of them. But Lily's grip was loose, her gaze fixed on a shadow that flickered like a candle in the wind. Then a scream shattered the night. It erupted from a figure hunched against the wall, their hands clawing at their face, as if fighting against an unseen force. Jenna felt her pulse quicken. "We need to help." But before she could react, another cry echoed, piercing through the stillness. "Don't engage! Run!" shouted a desperate voice. Panic zipped through her, electrifying her spine. She yanked Lily's hand, pulling her towards a darkened corridor that led away from the chaos. The walls were marked with gnarled scratches, as if something primal had marked its territory. They stumbled forward, each step accompanied by whispers that danced just out of earshot, teasing, daring them to look back. Jenna glanced behind, and a chill washed over her. The figure was gone, but the air felt heavier, suffocating her resolve. "Mum, look!" Lily pointed down the corridor, her voice sharp with both awe and fear. There, in the dim light, stood a massive clock, its hands moving backward with a relentless tempo. Jenna squirmed at the sight. "Time doesn't go backward," she murmured, confusion intertwining with dread. As they approached, Jenna felt an unnatural pull towards the clock, as though it was beckoning her to abandon reason. The hands continued to twist, and the whispers swelled. "You've stepped through the door, now you must choose." "Choose what?" Jenna spat, frustration clawing at her patience. "Ambition over love, fear over faith. What is it that you want?" The disembodied voice resonated, a twisted lullaby wrapped in malice. Cold fingers of terror snaked around Jenna's heart. "We just want to go home," she shouted into the darkness. The clock chimed, deep, resonant notes that sent tremors through the ground. Shadows surged toward them, morphing into grotesque figures of anguish and despair. They screamed, their voices a cacophony of unbearable torment. Without thinking, Jenna dragged Lily deeper into the corridor, the certainty of escape diminishing as the shadows swirled. The whispers grew louder. They were no longer just commands, but wails of anguish from lost souls, trapped forever. Just then, a flash of white light ignited the corridor, and everything froze. She looked at Lily just as a whisper brushed against her ear. "Choose or lose everything." Jenna's heart sank. What was she supposed to choose? Time felt suspended, the shadows even more threatening in the stark brightness. But the light began fading, and the chaos resumed. Jenna's instincts kicked in once more. "Run, Lily!" As they dashed through the corridor, Jenna's thoughts spiraled like the hands on that cursed clock. What kind of choice awaited them? With the shadows clawing at their heels, Jenna screamed, "What do I have to lose?" And as the last of the light faded into darkness, those haunting whispers whispered back, "Everything." What would the choice lead to? Would they confront eternal despair, or find an escape cloaked in darkness? Jenna and Lily ran, the weight of despair clawing at their backs. Walls closed in, their texture shifting under Jenna's fingertips, no longer cold concrete but a slick, pulsing surface that oozed with the agony of souls long lost. Shapes twisted and writhed just out of sight, echoing the chorus of the damned. Shadows reached, grasping at their ankles, begging for release or perhaps offering it. The corridor seemed endless, each flickering light bulb above them failing, then sputtering back to life, casting ghoulish figures that danced along the walls. They hurried forward, heartbeats thrumming in unison, a matching tempo of survival. White spots dotted Jenna's vision, but she pushed through the murk, urgency drowning out fear. "Mom, I'm scared!" Lily's voice quaked, barely above a whisper. Jenna's heart ached. She turned, squeezing Lily's hand. "I know, just hold on to me," she urged, her voice steadier than she felt. They plunged deeper into the corridor, racing past what felt like the remnants of lives drained of hope. And then they saw it, a door at the end, an odd comfort amidst the panic. Light spilled through the cracks, illuminating a space that seemed untouched by the horror surrounding them. Jenna felt the pulse of possibility, her breath hitching at the thought of safety. If only they could reach it. "Mom!" Lily cried, abruptly pointing again. A figure materialized before them, hazy and torn, the remnants of a once human shape. Its mouth moved, yet no sound came forth. Instead, they sensed the pressure of its intent, an overwhelming desire to pull them down into despair. The shadows flickered, hungry for company, as Jenna felt paralyzed, the darkness tugging at her resolve, urging her to join the figure's lament. "Keep running!" Jenna shouted, jerking Lily aside just as the figure lunged, clawing blindly into the air, grasping at nothingness. They barely dodged its grasp, a rush of cold air trailing in its wake. The door loomed ever closer, helping Jenna's muscles scream in protest from the strain of her frantic sprint. The whispers transformed, an agonized symphony of desperation weaving in and out of her consciousness, singing dissonant lullabies that wormed their way inside her head. "Come, stay. It's easier here." The chorus beckoned, coaxing her to surrender, but Jenna fought against its seductive pull. "No, we have to move." Lily hesitated, the shimmer of doubt illuminating her small face. "Is it worth it?" she gasped, her voice trembling even louder than the terrors that echoed around them. Jenna squinted at her daughter, tears forming mid-escape. A feral scream erupted from the depths, vibrating through the floor. Jenna's heart thumped violently. No turning back, no time to reflect. "Don't stop! We can make it!" she shouted, urging Lily on, pushing through her own fear. With a final burst of energy, they lunged towards the door, heartbeats drowning out the chaos. Jenna gripped the handle. It was icy, sending shockwaves of terror through her body. She twisted it. The door swung open. Light poured over them, a blinding white that seared their senses. With a surge of adrenaline, they dashed through, falling onto cool, solid ground. But the brightness dimmed like an extinguishing candle, revealing a room caught between time, dark, and flickering. The remnants of the corridor were now swirling shadows in the corners, their anguished voices growing fainter, but not gone. Jenna's breath caught as she turned to Lily. "Are we safe?" But then she saw it. The clock now looming in the center of the room, its hands twisting once more, frozen in perpetual torment. Before she could speak, the disembodied voice returned, a guttural satisfaction lacing its tone. "Your choice has been made. Welcome to your new world." Jenna's heart plummeted. She felt the walls closing in, the acrid taste of despair thickening the air around them. What have they become? The clock chimed again, with a foreboding echo that sent shivers down her spine, and then everything fell silent. Was this their end, or merely the beginning of something darker? A chill swept through the room, wrapping around Jenna and Lily like tendrils of smoke. Their senses jolted into overdrive, scanning the shadows that flickered just beyond the range of light. The clock ticked ominously, each sound a reminder of the monstrous weight of their situation. "Mom, I don't like it here." Lily's voice quivered, her small frame trembling beside Jenna. The flickering light cast eerie shadows on her innocent face, highlighting the fear pooling in her eyes. "Neither do I. But we have to stay strong," Jenna replied, her words attempting to mask the rising panic clawing at her throat. She was losing her grip, each second stretching into a suffocating eternity. The darkness around them shifted, pooling like liquid at the corners of the room. Jenna could feel something lurking. It was watching, waiting for the moment their resolve faltered. A low whisper echoed from the shadows, indistinct but filled with malice. "Stay. You'll never want to leave." The clock chimed again, and with it came a rush of icy air, swirling in an unnatural way. Jenna felt it tug at her skin, a sensation that left the hair on her neck standing on end. "Stick close to me, honey," she urged, inching back toward the door they had come through, hoping it still existed on the other side. But the door was gone, the space behind her now a seamless wall of shadow, as if it had never been there at all. Her heart raced, a wild rabbit in a trap, and she pulled Lily close, scanning their new prison. No escape. Then the shadow shifted again, this time taking on form. A grotesque figure emerged from the darkness, faceless yet familiar, its shape a mockery of all they had once deemed safe. It swayed lightly, hypnotically, almost inviting. "Stay with us," it breathed, the air around them thickening with every word. It was a kindness, twisted and dark, echoed by thousands of hidden voices that seemed to rise from nowhere. Embrace the silence, join the endless. Jenna screamed, a primal sound that shattered the thick air. She couldn't give in. "No, we are not yours." The loudness surprised even her, cutting through the murmurs with defiance. Yet, as she shouted, she felt something inside her quake. A flicker of doubt arose within, gnawing away at her confidence. Perhaps the figure spoke the truth. Perhaps this was how the world truly was. Dark, twisted, but unyielding and strong. Could a moment of peace lie within surrender? Lily's grip on her hand tightened, grounding Jenna. They had to run. It was the one thought that pierced through the haze of despair. They had conquered that corridor. They could do it again. "Let's go!" Jenna urged, pulling at Lily as they dashed forward into the room's oppressive gloom. But as they moved, walls began to pulse around them, thickening like a heartbeat. Jenna fell, stumbling to her knees. "Mom!" Lily screamed, panic crackling in the muted silence. The shadows coiled around Jenna's ankle, their icy grip threatening to pull her down. She could feel the past and future of countless souls pushing against her, whispering a language of sorrow. "Please, stay." With a burst of strength, Jenna yanked herself free and lunged toward the corner where light flickered faintly. Hope surged as she reached toward the brightness, feeling warmth against her fingertips. But it was then that the clock chimed again. Something dark seethed beneath the surface, its pulse syncing with the heartbeat of the looming figure. "Choose. Your moment is here," the shadows promised, and Jenna froze. What choice? The air grew taut with anticipation. Were they truly trapped with no escape, no choice? And then, with a crash, the clock shattered, its pieces swirling into the air like confetti, cutting through the silence. Jenna feared what might emerge next. "What just happened?" she gasped, barely catching her breath. But already, from the shroud of darkness, more figures formed, their faces now visible, echoes of familiar lost ones, reaching for them with desperate hands. the faces of people she once loved, twisted and crying, all begging her to come back. "Mom, we have to run!" Lily cried again, eyes wide with the dawning reality of their situation. But just as Jenna turned to flee, the flickering light revealed something else, a path woven through the shadows leading deeper into the dark. What lay ahead? Was it freedom or an even darker truth? "Stay or go," the shadows hissed as Jenna stood there, heart racing with Lily at her side. What would happen if they chose wrong? And in that moment, the ground trembled beneath their feet. What would they sacrifice to break free? The ground shook violently, threads of dark energy snaking around Jenna's feet, pulling at her, whispering promises of safety within the comforting grasp of oblivion. The shadows seemed to breathe, exhaling a terrible realization into the air. She tightened her grip on Lily as the space around them warped, a pulsing maelstrom of despair. "Stay or go," the voices crooned, each word dripping with deceitful warmth. Jenna felt the icy fingers of doubt creep in as familiar faces twisted in grotesque agony, begging her silently for solace. It was a battle of wills, one she couldn't afford to lose. "Mom!" Lily's voice cut through the fog like a beacon, sharp and clear. It anchored Jenna. "We have to make a choice." "Right, a choice," Jenna repeated, forcing her thoughts to sharpen against the dull roar of shadows encroaching. A choice was what they needed. She had to think. "We can't go further. It'll only get worse." But where would they go? The only path open to them led into deeper darkness. Her heart screamed against her will, drowning in the fear that the path could lead to freedom or trap them in deeper madness. She sensed the judgment of the shadows, waiting for her decision, eyes unseen, but infinitely accusing. "Mom!" Lily trembled beside her, the innocence of youth dragging their fate closer to despair. Jenna's mind raced. "Listen to me, Lily. If we take that path—" Her voice faltered for a moment. Could she risk it? The weight of her daughter's life clung heavy on her shoulders. "We have to trust in something greater than this illusion. We have to believe there's an exit." A heartbeat passed. Just one, yet it felt like eons. The figures from beyond the shadows reached out, fingers curling in desperation, mouths forming silent cries. Each face was a reminder of loss, people who had succumbed to darkness. Ignoring them was not an option. Their very existence haunted her thoughts. "Put your faith in me," Jenna whispered fiercely to Lily, "and we'll find our way out." With a determined nod, Lily met her gaze, trusting her mother's promise. They charged toward the distorted path, shadows writhing, trying to ensnare them. As they ran, Jenna could feel the air thickening, like ice coating her lungs. The darkness shrieked in anger, a cacophony of grief mingling with rage, but they pressed on, driven by desperation. The figures of familiar faces morphed and twisted, their features distorting further into paintbrush strokes of horror. "Come back, home!" They pleaded in a blend of anguished whispers and mournful wails that infused fear deep within Jenna's bones. Reality met fantasy, each step tugging at Jenna's spirit like a thread unraveling. "Faster, Lily! We're almost there!" she shouted, though doubt flared in her heart. Jenna's foot caught on something unseen, a tear in reality perhaps, and she went tumbling forward. "Mom!" Lily screamed, her small hands reaching out. But the pull of shadows snapped at Jenna's heels like hungry beasts. In an instant the world distorted again. Time twisted as if caught in the throes of a surreal nightmare, and the ground beneath them opened up. Jenna grasped Lily with desperate urgency, pulling her toward the vibrant thread of light that cut through the oppressive darkness, a beacon urging them forward. A rift emerged, throbbing with sickly light, swirling with broken memories and shadows, reaching out with haunting laughter. Without thinking, Jenna pushed them toward the rift, their bodies slipping through as the walls of darkness quaked in fury, closing in behind them. What lurked in this new reality? Would they find salvation or eternally circle back to the terror they sought to escape. As they staggered into the glaring brightness of a new realm, Jenna felt the shadows clawing at her soul, trying to pull her back. She turned, eyes wide with horror, as the rift began to close, sealing off their nightmare. But in that moment, a voice cut through the rumbling chaos, strong and chilling. "You will never escape your fears. They will always find you." Jenna's heart raced as she grasped Lily's hand tighter. "Mom, what did they mean?" Lily asked, her voice trembling. "What did we awaken?" Jenna thought, the question echoing as the brightness dulled, revealing a world that looked all too familiar yet distinctively wrong. What awaited them on the other side? And therein lay their salvation, or damnation. The blinding light faded, and Jenna blinked against the stinging brightness that seemed to pierce every corner of her mind. The air felt different, not thick and suffocating, but electric, throbbing with a pulse that resonated through her very core. They stumbled forward, and Jenna's sense of dread deepened as they emerged into what appeared to be a familiar street, their neighborhood. A sickening familiarity twisted in her stomach. The houses, a ghostly version of the homes she'd known, stood silent, weathered by time and something far more sinister, shadows draping over them like funeral veils. "Look, there's our house," Lily pointed, her innocent excitement mingling with Jenna's growing anxiety. But even as Lily expressed joy, Jenna felt desperation clawing at her heart. This was not right. The sky above was an ominous grey, dense clouds swirling like angry oil spills, and the normally inviting houses leaned at awkward angles, as though pleading for respite from some unseen torment. They approached their home, and the door creaked open, its movement slow, deliberate, like a hungry beast ready to swallow them whole. Jenna's pulse quickened. She felt compelled to step closer, yet every instinct screamed for her to run. The shadows around the house twisted and contorted, brightening and darkening in rhythm, as if breathing in and out, alive and aware. "Mom, can we go inside?" Lily actually smiled, oblivious to the encroaching terror cloaked in every corner. "Maybe we shouldn't—" Jenna hesitated, casting a weary glance over her shoulder. The ominous weight of the closing rift still lurked in her mind. Shadows prickled at her skin, whispering of the danger left behind. Yet they were here, now, together. Suddenly, a spine-chilling laugh reverberated through the air, sharp and icy. The hair on the back of Jenna's neck stood up. "Welcome home, Jenna," the voice echoed, wrapping around her like a suffocating cocoon. The voice sounded like her own, yet twisted and wrong, as if her fears had somehow manifested into a haunting echo. "Lily, stay close," Jenna shouted, guiding her daughter toward the door. They stepped over the threshold into an unnaturally dark living room. Muffled snickers vibrated in the air, seemingly rising from within the walls. The furniture was draped in dusty sheets, and layers of neglect thickened the atmosphere. Jenna's heart raced, pounding like thunder in her ears as she squinted into the darkness, each heartbeat growing louder, each shadow lurking deeper. "Mom, it's—" Lily started, but Jenna cut her off. "Stay quiet." The chilling sensation of being watched crept along Jenna's spine. Once comforting walls now held whispers of distorted memories. Pictures hung askew, faces seemed to leer down at them, warped and twisted. "Can we play a game?" a voice hissed, sounding like a child but distorted, menacing. Jenna's stomach dropped. "We don't want to play," she murmured, fear lacing her words. "Too late. We already started." From the shadows, figures began to emerge, each one appearing as a caricature of her family and friends. Their expressions distorted into masks of glee and terror, eyes wide with malicious intent. "Join us!" they chorused, their voices weaving in and out of rhythm, a twisted symphony of laughter that filled the room, pressing against her mind. Jenna felt Lily's small hand tremble in hers, the connection to her child grounding her. Panic surged. She had to pull Lily away from this madness. They moved to backtrack, but the doorway had vanished, replaced by an inky void. "What's happening?" Jenna thought, terror snaking through her veins. Memories of loss and fear flooded her, images of familiar faces twisted into suffering. "Mom!" Lily's voice broke through the chaos, urgent and sharp. "What do we do? We have to get out." Jenna turned, desperation clawing at her chest. I don't know. We need to find another way." But how? Where could they turn? Each face from the shadows seemed to jeer, mocking her every move. The air thickened with malevolence, and the laughter grew louder, more chaotic. With nowhere to flee, Jenna's fear turned to defiance. "We're not afraid," she yelled, her voice cutting through the cacophony. But the shadows only rippled and pulsed closer, weaving a web of terror that tightened around them. Suddenly, a new, piercing voice emerged from the depths of darkness. "Face what you've awakened," it growled, a tyranny that sent shivers racing down her spine. What had they brought forth? What horrors awaited them in this echo of home? And with that question, a darkness crept forward, ready to swallow them whole. The darkness seemed to pulse, a living entity closing in on Jenna and Lily. The walls whispered her name, a maddening symphony of her own fears. Each syllable sent a fresh wave of panic crashing into her chest. She grasped Lily's hand tighter, trying to ground her daughter in the chaos. "Mom, I'm scared," Lily whimpered, her voice small amid the overwhelming shadows. With trembling lips, Jenna forced a smile, though it felt fragile, like a thin layer of safety quickly eroding. "Me too, sweetie, but we have to stay strong." "Welcome to the game," the chilling voice sang, now echoing from every direction. The figures of twisted family and friends danced around them in the dim light, their faces still contorted in delighted madness. They beckoned with arms stretched wide, eager to ensnare. "Can't you see?" one figure cried, its grin too wide, too gleeful. "We've been waiting for you. It's time to play." Jenna took a shaky step backward, instinct urging her to flee. Yet the void behind them had consumed all exits. She felt the temperature drop, ice creeping along her spine. "Get back!" she shouted, instinct kicking in over panic. But the figures laughed, their laughter echoing as if it belonged to a horde of voices intertwined, a nightmarish choir celebrating their arrival. "Mom!" Lily squeaked, eyes wide with alarm as one shadow lunged toward them, its hands stretching grotesquely in a mock gesture of friendship. Jenna's heart raced faster. "We can't let them touch us!" She turned sharply, scanning the room through the thick darkness. "Think, Jenna, there must be a way." The room itself shuddered as if it could feel their fear, and the shadows writhed closer, pulled by some unseen force. "The game is simple," a different voice called, smooth and enticing. "You need only give in." "Give in?" Jenna gasped. "No, we won't." But the shadows whispered promises, a digital harmony that resonated with sinister allure. They were offering something, a longing that tugged at her very essence. Images flashed before Jenna's eyes, memories of comfort, laughter, warmth. She felt herself teetering on the edge of that void-like promise, and fear twisted in her gut. Then Lily tugged at her sleeve, the innocent child lost in a twisted nightmare. "Mum, look!" She pointed in the dim light, which seemed to coalesce into something solid, something familiar. "Mommy's room!" Lily cried, her voice hopeful, just as a hazy silhouette formed at an angle in the corner. But before they could reach it, the snickering grew louder, almost mocking. "Do you really want to go back there?" they taunted, shadows darting around them in a frenzied dance. "That's where it all began. Don't you remember?" Jenna's breath caught. Bits of her past came flooding back, hiding under the bed during storms, calling for her mother after nightmares. There were secrets she had buried, things she had tried to forget. "Let's get to your room," Jenna blurted, trying to push away the haunting memories. She grabbed Lily's hand, and they sprinted toward the growing shape, hoping it would lead them to safety. But as they ran, the figures lunged with terrifying speed, reaching out with whirling arms like dark branches clawing for prey. Jenna felt a rush of adrenaline. "Don't look back!" she yelled, pouring all her fear into action. "Just keep moving!" The room loomed closer, but the shadows gained on them. A cacophony of laughter and despair swirling behind them. "You can't escape what's inside!" the voice howled, resonating through the air like thunder. With a final surge of determination, Jenna yanked Lily toward the vague outline of her old room. The figures were inches away now, their claws almost clutching their clothes. "Mom!" Lily screamed, slipping from Jenna's grip for a mere heartbeat, and the world slowed. Jenna spun around, horror freezing her in place. "No!" The figures surrounded Lily, their faces twisted in rapture, separated from Jenna in a vortex of shadow and madness. "Lily!" she shrieked, heart hammering against her ribs. Desperation roared through her veins as she dove forward, breaking through the fabric of the darkness, praying she wouldn't lose her daughter to the void. But in that split second, something twisted and sharp gripped her arm, pulling her toward the depths of darkness. "Face what you've awakened." The shadows chorused again, closing in. They laughed, a sound devoid of warmth, echoing with his brutal pleasure. And in that instant, Jenna saw Lily's frightened face, surrounded, helpless. It was a moment suspended in terror. The shadows shifted, hungry for her bones, ready to answer the beckoning call of despair. What would Jenna sacrifice to save her little girl? And as Jenna struggled against the pull of the shadows, the spectre of her own nightmares ripped through her mind. A choice loomed on the horizon, one that would seal their fate forever. Jenna's heart raced as she grappled with the icy tendrils tightening around her arm, the shadows grasping with a ferocity that felt alive. "Lily!" she cried, her voice breaking, echoing in the suffocating darkness. The room pulsed with their fear, and she felt a cold sweat racing down her spine, panic surging like a tidal wave. The faces of the figures twisted closer, their eyes glimmering with a malevolent light. "You cannot save her," one whispered, the words slithering through the void like a snake, slinking into her mind. "You are not enough." Jenna's breath hitched. She couldn't lose Lily, not now. With a newfound fervor, she yanked her arm free, sending shockwaves through her body. "Stay back!" she screamed, feeling the strength of a mother's love flaring within her. Yet the pull of the shadows was relentless. They tightened, a dark, embracing cocoon filled with memories of her deepest fears. Vague faces from her past flickered in the murk, friends lost, promises broken. "You're too weak to fight," they taunted, their laughter like the sound of nails on a chalkboard. But Lily's terrified visage propelled Jenna forward. "I won't let you take her!" In an explosive surge, she charged toward her daughter, tearing through figures who hissed and recoiled. Each blow felt like striking chiffon, soft yet insidious, feeding the dark with her doubts. As she moved, Jenna could sense time collapsing around them, seconds stretched into tumultuous minutes. She dove for Lily, who flinched as the shadow figures reached for her, fingers like smoke and mourning. "Get away from her!" Jenna shouted, lunging forward. Just inches away from Lily, Jenna felt a jolt, a burning shard of purpose ignited inside her. With a fierce cry, she tackled the shadows around Lily, knocking them aside like brittle autumn leaves. "I'll fight you to my last breath." The words, fierce and raw, echoed into the void. Lily stumbled back, eyes wide with awe and fear. "Mom!" But there was no time for hesitation. Jenna surged forward, grabbing her daughter's trembling hand, squeezing tight, imprinting a fierce warmth. "Together!" Jenna urged, their eyes locking in shared terror. "Hold on to me!" The shadows coalesced around them, flexing and writhing, threatening to envelop them both once more in a cloak of despair. "You think you can escape?" they hissed, voices swirling as a tempest in Jenna's ears. "You think love can conquer fear?" In that moment, doubt crept in. Was fear not the ultimate victor? It tantalized her, tempting her to give in to the unholy embrace of the abyss. "Mommy, I feel them! They're everywhere!" Lily's voice trembled, grounding Jenna as she fought against the dread clawing at her resolve. Ignoring the darkness pressing closer, Jenna shut her eyes tight. A surge of memories blasted through her mind, the laughter of Lily, their bedtime stories, sweet afternoons in the park. They were the lifelines stitching together her compassion, her humanity. Jenna screamed, infused with strength, as she forced the shadows back, feeling them recoil beneath her defiance. "We won't succumb!" She propelled them both backward to the glowing outline of her old room, the silhouette breathing familiarity and hope. "Hold tight!" Jenna gasped as the shadows lunged, forbidding fingers gripping at their heels. They were close now, so painfully close. Heart racing, she dashed with Lily toward the light, praying it would swallow them whole. Yet just as they reached the threshold, a deafening wail erupted from the depths of darkness, echoing with despair. "You cannot escape. You are ours." The sinister words rose like smoke, curling and coiling once more, pulling at their very souls. The doorway flickered like a dying flame, a portal of salvation tainted with dread. As Jenna stepped forward, an unsettling thought pierced her heart. What if the light was a trap, offering false salvation? "Mom!" Lily cried, pulling her back just as Jenna hesitated. "What do we do?" Jenna's breath faltered. The figures seethed behind them, their twisted forms writhing in anticipation. If they stepped through, would they be safe, or would they fall deeper into the abyss? Torn between the beckoning light of her childhood and the darkness clutching at her heels, Jenna faced the tormenting choice. What if this is just the beginning? The horrifying realization settled like a stone. They had survived one nightmare. Could they escape another? And in that moment of decision, they stood uncertain. Jenna looked into Lily's eyes, their connection holding them steady as the shadows writhed in anticipation, hungry for despair, waiting to see what they would choose. What lay beyond the light, and would their love be enough to conquer both realms of terror? The shadows surged forward, growing more corporeal, ready to drag them down once and for all. As the shadows writhed and twisted toward them, Jenna felt heat rising within her, a volcano of determination bubbling over. "This is our moment," she screamed, holding Lily tighter. "We are not afraid!" The light flickered again, and then expanded, a blinding pure glow pulsing against the darkness closing in around them. Jenna surged forward, dragging Lily along with her, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. "Keep your eyes on me, Lily. We can do this together," she shouted, each syllable infused with adrenaline, every word a lifeline against the encroaching dread. The shadows roared, their voices jagged and dissonant, vying for her attention, clawing at her soul. "You belong to us. You'll never escape." But Jenna focused on Lily, their heartbeats synchronizing in a rhythm that resonated louder than the chaos around them. Trust and love surged between them, a barrier against fear. They plunged into the light, and for a moment the world shattered into infinite shards, colors blurring and blending until everything faded. Jenna braced herself, the thrill of destiny vibrating through her bones. When the brightness dissipated, they emerged into a vast landscape, one bathed in colors vibrant and warm. The air felt crisp against her skin, the sun hung high above, casting down hope and life. This was no twisted reflection of their home. This was a new beginning. "Mom, is this real?" Lily looked around, wide-eyed, an expression of curiosity now replacing fear. Yes, I think it is," Jenna breathed, her heart swelling at the sight. There were trees flowering in brilliant hues, a meadow stretching endlessly, adorned with vibrant petals swaying in the gentle breeze. Suddenly, the whispers from the shadows surged around them, but they felt muted, far off. Their claws of despair couldn't penetrate this realm of light. For the first time since everything began, Jenna felt something shift within her, a swell of peace, a flicker of freedom. Jenna sighed, her chest heavy with emotion. "We made it, Lily. We really made it." But even as she spoke, shadows still lingered at the edges of her new reality, lurking like old ghosts waiting for an opening. "You cannot erase us. We are always here," they hissed, their voices blending with the chirps of joyous birds, forming a ghastly harmony that made her skin crawl. Jenna turned, meeting those familiar mocking gazes swirling around them. "We are no longer afraid," she declared, voice steady. "You can only have power if we let you." The shadows recoiled, and the edges of the meadow pulsed as if resonating with her resolve. Lily looked at her mother, admiration shining through her fear. "I'm not afraid anymore," she echoed, inspired by Jenna's fierce conviction. From behind them, a silhouette began to take form, a familiar presence stepping out of the lingering shadows. It was an ethereal image, one of hope, perhaps even forgiveness. Jenna's breath caught. "Mom," Lily whispered, pointing. "Let them come," Jenna breathed, her heart racing in tandem with the beat of the world around them. The past couldn't reclaim them. It belonged to an older story, one that was reaching its conclusion. The figure materialized fully, revealing soft, warm features mirroring Jenna's own. "Embrace your journey," it said, voice echoing like a gentle lullaby. "Let go of what once held you. You are free now." Jenna stepped forward, eyes glistening. "We have overcome. Together." And as she spoke those words, a brilliant burst of light erupted where the figure stood, consuming the shadows. Jenna felt the warmth wash over her and Lily, wrapping them in a shining cocoon, merging their past with this newfound freedom. The grasp of dread slipped away, disintegrating into whispers of nothingness as the shadows faded into the horizon. Jenna turned, squeezing Lily's hand tightly, tears of strength and relief brimming in her eyes. "Yes, we're free," Jenna whispered as reality transformed around them, barriers lifted, burdens eased. And as the sun set upon their new path, casting hues of orange and gold, Jenna felt a sweeping peace enfold them like an endless embrace. It wasn't just an escape, it was a celebration of their resilience, a powerful acknowledgement that light and love could break the strongest of chains. Jenna knelt beside Lily, brushing her hair from her face, the flicker of fear now replaced with courage and hope. "Where shall we go next?" Jenna smiled, feeling light as air. Lily's laughter rang like bells, sweet and joyful. "To the park? Or how about ice cream?" "Let's go wherever our hearts take us," Jenna laughed, her spirit free. As they ventured onward, the shadows hadn't vanished entirely. They were merely pieces of the past. They would always remember, but those memories would no longer define them. With each step, they embraced the light, leaving behind a haunting for good, as echoes of the shadows dissipated into the vastness of the emptiness left behind, forgotten and alone. Moving forward with hope, they knew the path would not always be easy. But as long as they faced it together, love would guide them. Now it was time to embrace the adventures waiting ahead, unfiltered and unhindered. An endless journey filled with possible joys just waiting to be discovered. Make your moment count and cherish this sense of liberation. As the new dawn glimmered above, Jenna and Lily stepped boldly into their bright future, forging a bond unbreakable, coupled with the vibrant texture of hope. But before you close out this story, remember to join us in future adventures. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now. Your support fuels the journey. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this conclusion. Let's hear what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring conclusion. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel, so let's keep this vibrant community alive.